There is a material sitting in most people's recycling bins right now that outperforms nearly every commercially sold glass cleaner on the market. It leaves no streaks. It costs nothing. It has been used by professional detailers for decades, and it has been quietly removed from every mainstream cleaning guide because there is no way to sell it. That material is ordinary printed newspaper. And the reason it works has nothing to do with tradition or folk wisdom. It has everything to do with chemistry that the cleaning products industry has never had any incentive to explain to you. Most people will read that and assume this is one of those nostalgic shortcuts that sounds compelling and underdelivers in practice. It is not. And if you want to understand why the most optically clear glass you have ever seen on a car was probably not cleaned with a commercial product, the explanation starts with what the industry chose not to tell you about the product it sells. To understand why newspaper is exceptional on glass, you first have to understand why everything else you have tried has probably disappointed you in ways you did not fully register until the light hit the windshield at exactly the wrong angle. Commercial glass cleaners, particularly the blue ammonia-based formulas that dominate the market, do address light surface contamination. That part of the advertising is technically true. What the label does not mention is what ammonia does over time to everything surrounding the glass. The rubber trim that runs along window edges, the seals bonding a windshield to its frame, the gaskets around door glass. Ammonia degrades those materials with repeated exposure, not catastrophically and not immediately, but persistently. Professional detailers who work on high-value vehicles stopped using ammonia-based products not because of any published safety guidance, but because they observed seal deterioration on cars under their own care. That kind of institutional knowledge does not survive in content sponsored by the brands responsible for the problem. This is not a fringe position held by detailing hobbyists on forums. It reflects what professionals who spend hours each week working on glass have independently arrived at through observation rather than through any coordinated critique of the industry. The brands know this. The information is simply not commercially useful to them, so it does not travel. The second failure point isn't the product at all. It's the microfiber cloth that almost everyone uses to apply it. Microfiber is genuinely excellent for paintwork, for bodywork, for most interior surfaces. On glass, it behaves differently. The synthetic fiber structure glides across the surface and redistributes oily film rather than lifting it away from the glass. The result is a haze that appears acceptable in indoor lighting and becomes a visibility problem the moment sun hits from a low angle. More product applied to a microfiber cloth produces more of the same result. The mechanism is flawed regardless of how much cleaner you add. Newspaper solves both problems simultaneously, and the reason begins at a structural level that most people have never thought about. Newspaper is manufactured from compressed wood pulp, and at a microscopic scale, the fiber structure that results from that process is fundamentally different from cotton or synthetic cloth. Those paper fibers carry a slight but real mechanical texture, not enough to interact negatively with glass, because glass sits at approximately 9 on the Mohs hardness scale, and compressed wood pulp fiber is nowhere near that threshold, but enough to physically grip and lift surface contaminants rather than sliding over them. The distinction matters enormously in practical terms. Cloth fibers glide, paper fibers catch. That mechanical difference is the foundation of everything that makes this work. Then there is the ink, and this is where the chemistry becomes genuinely interesting. Traditional newspaper ink is oil-based, applied through offset printing processes, and the compounds within that ink carry mild solvent properties that interact with the glass surface in a way that polishes it at a molecular level. This is not an informal claim passed down through detailing lore. Surface chemists who study material interaction have documented this behavior. The ink compounds engage with microscopic surface irregularities in the glass and leave behind an optical clarity that no cloth-applied commercial cleaner reliably reproduces. This is the reason the technique persisted in professional detailing circles, even as the broader industry systematically replaced it with branded alternatives that generate far more revenue per application. Newspaper is also absorbent in a way that synthetic material fundamentally is not. When a contaminated surface is cleaned with cloth, moisture, and dissolved material are partly captured and partly redeposited as the cloth reaches saturation. Paper fiber pulls moisture away from the surface as it cleans, drawing contaminants with it rather than cycling them back across the glass. The result at the end of the process is not just visually cleaner glass, it is optically clear glass in a way that most car owners have not experienced since their vehicle was new. The combination that makes this method complete is the cleaning solution paired with the paper. Distilled water is the baseline minimum because tap water carries dissolved minerals that evaporate and leave their own deposits on the glass surface, precisely recreating the problem you were trying to solve. The more effective pairing is distilled water combined with plain white vinegar, and the reason vinegar transforms the result is that it chemically dissolves the mineral scale that accumulates on car glass over time. That persistent white haze on windows, the one from automatic washes, from rain drying on a windshield that was not spotless, from parking lot sprinklers leaving deposits through repeated summer heat cycles, is calcium and magnesium carbonate left behind when water evaporated. Standard glass cleaner does not address that chemistry. It lubricates the surface without dissolving the scale. Vinegar dissolves it before any mechanical cleaning action is required. The cost of this entire system, accounting for everything, is roughly 40 cents of vinegar and paper that was already headed for recycling. The cost of this entire system, accounting for everything, is roughly 40 cents of vinegar and paper that was already headed for recycling. No brand has ever found a way to make that economically interesting to them, and that is precisely why you have never seen it featured prominently anywhere they control the message. There is also something worth understanding about why scale accumulates in the first place and why it is so resistant to standard cleaners. Water in most municipal systems carries dissolved calcium and magnesium ions. When water dries on a surface, whether from rain, an automatic wash, or atmospheric humidity, those ions remain behind and oxidize into carbonate compounds that bond lightly to the glass surface. Each subsequent wetting event deposits another microscopic layer. Over months and years of driving, that layering builds into the persistent haze that many drivers simply accept as an unavoidable feature of used glass. It is not unavoidable. It is a solubility problem, and vinegar's acetic acid content dissolves those carbonates efficiently because carbonate chemistry responds directly to mild acids. Commercial glass cleaners are formulated around a different problem, surface film and smear, and are not designed to address mineral scale at all. This is why drivers who clean their windows religiously with commercial products still find themselves looking through a haze they cannot seem to remove. They are treating the wrong problem with the wrong chemistry. The interior surface of a car's windshield presents a specific and separate phenomenon worth understanding on its own. That interior haze, the one responsible for oncoming headlights scattering into a diffuse glare during night driving, is not ordinary dust. It is a compound film built from multiple sources over years of use. Dashboard and door trim materials off-gas plasticizers as they undergo repeated heat cycles, and those plasticizer vapors settle on the interior glass surface as a fine oily layer. Contact oils from hands, fine particulate recirculated through the cabin air system, and aerosolized residue from any interior cleaning product ever used near the glass all contribute additional layers to that film. Commercial glass cleaner applied with microfiber moves this film. It does not remove it. The haze shifts, spreads, and settles again in a slightly different configuration. The combination of paper fiber texture and vinegar chemistry lifts that film from the surface entirely. The improvement in night visibility after the interior glass is genuinely clean this way is not a subtle difference. It is the kind of perceptual shift that makes drivers realize they had been unconsciously compensating for impaired visibility without ever identifying it as a glass problem. One material caveat is relevant here because newspaper has changed. Some publications have transitioned from traditional oil-based offset printing to water-based inks, and water-based ink does not carry the same surface polishing properties that make traditional newsprint perform the way it does. The presence of color transfer onto the glass during use is the signal that the ink composition is wrong for this application. Standard black and white broadsheet pages from conventional print newspapers remain the reliable option. Glossy inserts, promotional materials, and pages from digital print shops do not carry the ink chemistry that makes any of this work. The reason this information disappeared from mainstream cleaning content is not particularly mysterious. There is no product to sell in this explanation, no margin, no affiliate relationship, no brand to build a sponsored segment around. The technique survived because it actually works, passing through detailing shops and through the habits of people who learned this trade before the internet decided that every maintenance task required a dedicated, proprietary solution with an optimized purchase funnel attached to it. The chemistry has not changed, the results have not changed. What changed is who controls the information environment around your car and what they need you to believe about the cleaning products already sitting in your garage. What is interesting, if you follow this thread far enough, is how consistent this pattern is across different categories of car maintenance. The products that generate the most shelf space, the most sponsored content, the most affiliate revenue are frequently not the products that perform best. They are the products that are most efficiently marketable. Newspaper glass cleaning survives as a counterexample specifically because it cannot be packaged, branded, or inserted into a supply chain. There is no version of it that generates a margin. And so, the information that explains why it works, the fiber structure, the ink chemistry, the solvent properties of offset printing compounds never got incorporated into the mainstream conversation about car care. It got replaced by a blue bottle with a confident label and a shelf placement that guarantees it will be the first thing you reach for. Now you know what you were reaching past.